Small medieval village. There is nothing urgent here. No great event is about to happen. No messenger is arriving. No bell is calling anyone to anything important. There is only a slow day, beginning in darkness and ending beside a low fire. So let your breathing settle. Let your thoughts become a little softer. Imagine a lane of packed earth, a few thatched cottages, a faint smell of wood smoke, and the cool air before dawn. In this village, life moves by habit. A hand reaches for embers. A bucket is lifted. A hen is fed. A field is crossed. Wool is spun. A stew is stirred. And then the village sleeps again. Chapter 1. Before the first light, long before sunrise, the cottage is still dark. The thatched roof holds the night's cold above the room, and the packed floor gives back a little of that chill. Blankets are still drawn close. The air smells of smoke, straw, wool, and old wood. It is the smell of a room used every day for sleeping, eating, mending, warming, and waiting out bad weather. Nothing in it is grand. Everything in it is useful. At the center of the room is the hearth. The fire is no longer burning, but under the ash a few embers remain. They are small and dull, but they are enough. In many cottages, that is how morning begins. Someone rises in the dark and kneels by the hearth. Dry straw or thin kindling is placed gently over the hidden heat. A careful breath is blown into the ash. The red beneath it brightens. Smoke appears first, then a small flame, then a steadier glow. The room is not warm yet, but it is beginning to wake. The first person up moves slowly. There is no reason to move quickly in the dark. Shoes are found by feel. A bench is touched in passing. A wooden cup is shifted aside. The door stays closed for now, and the room keeps its dim quiet. The fire gives a faint light to nearby hands and the lower edge of the wall. The rest remains shadow. In a medieval village, the day does not begin with a clock. It begins with habit and need. The season matters. The weather matters. The animals matter. The field matters. But first, before all of that, there must be warmth enough to start the day. A pot may be set near the fire. Water may be warmed. Yesterday's pottage may be stirred and brought back to heat. A heel of coarse bread may be softened near the coals. As the fire grows stronger, the room slowly changes. The edge of a stool becomes visible. A chest can be seen near the wall. A hanging cloth looks less like shadow and more like cloth again. A child turns in sleep. Another person coughs once in the smoky air. Quiet voices begin, low and practical. No one says much. There is not much to say at this hour. Morning is not for speeches. It is for beginning. When the door is finally opened, the outside air enters at once. It smells of damp earth, wet grass, and the faint warm scent of animals not far from the house. The sky is still dark blue or gray, depending on the weather and the season. The lane outside lies quiet. The neighboring cottages are only shapes. Their roofs hold beads of moisture from the night. Somewhere another hearth is being lit in the same way. Another person is blowing on yesterday's embers. Another room is slowly coming back into use. The first food of the day is simple. Dark bread, perhaps. A little warmed pottage. A swallow of watered ale or warm water. The point is not pleasure. The point is steadiness. The body must be ready for work, and that work begins early. The people in the cottage eat quietly, standing or sitting where there is space. The fire now gives enough heat to be useful. The room is no longer night, but it is not fully day either. It rests for a short moment in between. Soon the household is fully awake. A blanket is folded back. A tunic is shaken out. A wooden spoon is set down. Someone checks the latch. Someone lifts a bucket. The fire is steady now. The room is in order, and the cottage has done the first part of its work. Outside, dawn is coming. And with dawn come the animals, the yard, the milk pail, the straw, and the many small duties that belong to every ordinary village morning. Chapter 2. The morning chores. Once the hearth is lit and the household has taken its first small meal, attention turns outward. Morning chores cannot wait long. A hen does not care whether the fire was difficult to start. A cow does not delay her needs. A pig, if there is one, is rarely patient. The door opens, and the first real work of the day steps into the yard. The ground is cool underfoot. Dew clings to the grass and darkens the edges of worn shoes. The yard smells of straw, dung, damp wood, and animal heat. It is a strong smell, but it is a familiar one. In a peasant household, animals are not distant from daily life. They are close, practical, and necessary. Their milk, eggs, labor, and manure all matter. So each morning begins by seeing to them. Grain is scattered for the hens. They hurry in with quick feet, busy at once, pecking with complete attention. If there are geese, they move more slowly, but with equal seriousness. A pig receives scraps or mash in a trough. A goat may be let out or checked where it was tied. No movement is grand. It is all small, repeated, and known in advance. That is what makes these chores so steady. Every morning brings much the same order of tasks. Then there is the milking. A low stool is set down. A pail is placed in position. The cow's side is warm in the cool air of early morning. Her breath drifts softly. A hand rests against her flank. Then the work begins. Press and release. Press and release. Milk strikes the bucket in a gentle rhythm. It is one of the quietest sounds of labor, regular and calm. The bucket fills slowly, and no one expects it to happen quickly. Morning work in a village is shared. An older child may gather eggs. Another may carry water. One person lifts feed. Another straightens bedding straw in a stall. A woman who milks the cow may later knead dough, mend cloth, or stir the pot at noon. A man who checks the harness may later guide the plow. Village life is made of overlapping tasks rather than separate roles kept far apart. Much depends on who is present, who is able, and what must be done first. Cleaning is part of the morning too. Old straw is pulled aside. Fresh straw is spread where needed. A rope is untangled. A gate is checked. A latch is pushed back into place. These are quiet acts, but they matter. A village household depends on small care taken at the right time. If a hinge loosens, if a pen opens, if feed is wasted, the trouble comes later. So morning brings its own kind of order. Not beautiful order, perhaps, but useful order. As the light grows stronger, more of the village begins to stir. Another door opens along the lane. Smoke rises from another roof. A neighbor may call a few plain words. A dog crosses the path and stops to sniff the ground. A cartwheel creaks somewhere beyond the cottages. The village is awake now, though still not loud. It hums with work rather than noise. By now the animals are quieter. The pail has been carried in. The eggs have been gathered. The yard has been set in order again for a few hours. Morning chores have taken time, but that is expected. Much of village life is made of things that must be done before the larger work can even begin. Only after the creatures are fed, the milk is taken, and the household is settled does the day move on. Beyond the cottages, the fields are waiting. The soil is cool. The plow is ready. And the long, slow work of the morning continues there. Chapter 3. The quiet work of the field. Beyond the cottages and small garden plots, the fields open in long, plain stretches. They are not dramatic places. They are simply the ground on which much of life depends. Furrow after furrow, strip after strip, they wait for the same labor they received yesterday and will receive again tomorrow. The sky above them is wide. The earth below is dark, damp, and patient. Field work begins slowly, because much of it must. The plow is brought out. The harness is checked. If the household has an ox, the animal is led forward with steady care. Leather creaks. Wood presses against wood. Hooves sink a little into the soft ground. There is no sudden start. The body leans into the work, and the work answers in its own slow time. When the plow cuts the soil, the smell rises at once. Damp earth has a cool mineral smell, faintly sweet after rain and heavy with roots. The furrow opens in a dark line behind the blade. The worker guiding the plow must keep a steady grip. Hands tighten and loosen. Feet find their place. The shoulders settle into the pull of the task. It is not quick work. It is row after row, turn after turn, one long, patient movement across the ground. Some follow behind to break clods or clear stones. Others carry seed, mend a tool, or watch the line of the field. Not every hand does the same thing, but all are bent toward the same need. In a medieval village, the field is not separate from daily life. It is daily life, at least for much of the year. Bread begins here. Rent may depend on what happens here. Winter comfort may depend on it too. Yet the labor itself remains very plain. Walk forward. Keep the line. Reach the end. Turn and begin again. As the morning grows older, the first chill leaves the body. Warmth gathers in the back and arms. The ground sticks a little to shoes. Dirt marks the hand, the hem, the lower edge of the tunic. A bird moves over a hedge. Insects begin their quiet work in the grass. Far behind, the cottages look smaller now, their roofs low against the wider land. A church tower may stand in the distance, or perhaps only a stand of trees, a stream, or a low rise in the ground. Whatever is there, the field remains the main thing. There are pauses, but they are brief. The ox breathes deeply. The plow is steadied. A hand wipes the brow. A clod of earth is kicked aside. Then the next row begins. No one stops to praise a straight furrow. The work simply goes on. That is its nature, and perhaps also its calm. It asks for attention, but not excitement. It fills the hour without drama. The field is also a place of silence. A few practical words may be spoken, but long conversation wastes breath. The sounds here are simple. The soft pull of the harness. The scrape of the plow. Heavy footsteps on turned soil. The occasional call to an animal. Wind moving over the open ground. Once you imagine it for a while, it becomes easy to understand how a whole morning could pass in this slow pattern of movement and earth. By late morning, hunger returns in a steady way. Shoulders feel the work they have done. The field has changed a little under many repeated passes. Long dark lines mark where there was firm ground before. Tools are set down. A hand rests on the handle one last moment. Somewhere nearby there is shade, and in that shade there is food. Not much food, and not fancy food, but enough for the middle of the day. Bread waits wrapped in cloth. Cheese waits beside it. The body turns gratefully toward the hour of rest. Chapter 4. The midday meal and the hour of rest. Midday in a medieval village is often marked simply by the body itself. The hands slow. The shoulders begin to lower. Hunger becomes hard to ignore. So for a little while the tools are left where they can be found again. A tree becomes a place to rest. A hedge becomes enough of a shelter. A patch of shade beside a wall is enough to make the next hour easier. The meal is small and plain. A piece of dark bread is brought out from a cloth bundle. It is dense bread, coarse and filling, made from the grains available to ordinary people. There may be a bit of cheese, firm and simple. Sometimes there is an onion, or a little salt, or a scrap of cold food from the house. Nothing is arranged for display. The food is there to keep the body steady for the afternoon. Bread is broken by hand. Cheese is divided with a knife or a thumb. A wooden cup may hold watered ale or plain water. The smells are modest and good. Grain, milk, a little sourness from storage. Around it all is the smell of grass, bark, warm cloth, and air moving through leaves. For a while, these are enough. What makes this hour restful is how little it asks from anyone. A worker sits with a back against a tree. Another stretches out on the ground for a moment. A child watches light moving through branches. The ox stands nearby, flicking at flies with slow patience. No one is idle exactly, because rest itself is part of keeping the day in order. But no one needs to strain during this short pause. There may be a few words, but not many. Someone remarks on the weather. Someone notes that the ground is softer in one part of the field than another. Someone says nothing at all. The stillness is not empty. It is full of small sounds that do not demand attention. Insects hum in the grass. Leaves move overhead. A cup is set down. A crust breaks. A sleeve brushes crumbs from a lap. For a few minutes, the body is allowed to be heavy. The weight of the morning settles down through the spine, into the hips, into the legs, and into the ground. The shade is cool enough to be welcome. The sun beyond it is warm without being harsh. It is easy to imagine someone closing tired eyes and doing nothing at all except breathing and listening to leaves. In a life shaped by repeated labor, this kind of pause matters. It does not stop the day. It makes the rest of the day possible, but the pause does not last forever. The cloth is folded again. The last bite is taken. Hands brush away crumbs. Someone stands slowly and reaches for a tool. Yet not every hand returns to the same labor. Some remain with the field. Others turn back toward the village, where different kinds of work are waiting. Wool must be spun. Small wooden things must be shaped or repaired. The day goes on, but it goes on more quietly now, as the sun begins its slow movement toward afternoon. Chapter 5. The Afternoon Craft. By afternoon, the village gathers inward again. The broad labor of the field continues for some people, but many tasks return to the doorway, the bench, the hearthside, and the patch of ground just outside the house. These are the quieter tasks of the day. They are done close to home, often with seated hands and repeated motions. They ask for patience more than strength. One of the most common of these tasks is spinning wool. Before cloth can be woven, wool must first become thread. A woman may sit on a stool with a basket beside her and a distaff of loose wool in hand. From below hangs a drop spindle, turning lightly as the fibers are drawn out and twisted. The movement is small, practiced, and calm. Fingers pull a little wool free. The spindle turns. Twist travels upward into the fiber. Then the new thread is wound on, and the process begins again. The wool itself has a soft but slightly rough feel. It catches gently against the skin. There may still be a faint scent of lanolin in it, a warm animal smell, plain and familiar. Good thread comes from steady hands. Too much pull makes it thin. Too little makes it thick and uneven. So the spinner works by feel and habit. The spindle drops, turns, and rises. Drops, turns, and rises again. It is a slow kind of making and a soothing one to imagine. Nearby, other quiet work may be going on. Someone cards more wool. Someone mends a sleeve or turns the hem of a worn garment. Someone sorts a basket, ties cord, or checks a tool that will be needed tomorrow. A child sits for a little while, watching, then wanders off after a hen or a stick or a patch of sunlight on the ground. Afternoon village work often happens in company, but it is a soft company. People do not need to speak much to share the same space. Not every pair of hands is busy with wool. A man near the doorway may be carving wood with a small knife. He might be shaping a peg, a spoon, a handle, or another small thing meant simply to be used. The blade pares away thin curls that fall at his feet. Fresh cut wood has a clean smell, a little dry and a little sweet. The knife moves carefully, not quickly. A little is cut away. The shape is tested. Then a little more is cut away. It is not grand craft. It is ordinary household making. This part of the day is one of the calmest in the village. The sun has lost some of its morning sharpness. Shadows lie longer by the wall. Hens cross the lane without hurry. A dog sleeps and changes position only now and then. Somewhere, someone carries water back from a well or stream. Somewhere else, cloth is shaken out and folded. None of it would look important from far away. Yet these are the actions that hold a household together, day after day. What makes afternoon craft work restful is its repetition. Wool will need spinning tomorrow as well. Something wooden will need mending again. A cuff will fray. A handle will loosen. Nothing is ever finished for long, but that is not a tragedy. It is simply the pattern of life. The spindle turns. The knife pares. The afternoon moves gently forward. Eventually, another need returns. Evening is coming, and evening requires food. The spindle is set aside. The knife is wiped. The bench is left as it is for now. Root vegetables wait in a basket or cellar. A pot must go back to the fire. The village begins its slow turn toward supper, toward embers, and toward the closing of the day. Chapter 6. The evening stew and the closing of the day. By evening, the whole village seems heavier and quieter. The field workers return with earth on their shoes and tiredness in their shoulders. The yard is checked again. Animals are fed or settled for the night. Doors remain open for a little while to catch the last of the light and air. From cottage to cottage, smoke rises again as hearths are brought fully back into use. The evening meal is plain, as most village meals are plain. A pot is set near the fire and filled with what the household has. Turnips may go in. Onions may go in. Leeks, if they are available. Carrots in places where they are known. A little barley may be added. Perhaps a scrap of fat or broth from an earlier meal. Often it is enough simply to make something warm, soft, and filling. The preparation is slow and ordinary. Vegetables are brought out one by one. A knife cuts through them on a board or bench. Peel. Slice. Drop into the pot. The sound is dull and regular. Nothing about it seeks beauty. It is simply the work needed to turn what the house has into supper. As the pot warms, the room begins to smell of evening. Onion sweetens in the heat. Earthy roots soften. Smoke hangs lightly above it all. A damp sleeve dries near the hearth. Wool gives off its faint warm smell. The room that greeted the dawn with ash and cold now gathers the household again with a low, steady fire. People come together gradually. Someone enters carrying a small armful of wood. Someone rinses a bowl. Someone lowers tired feet onto a stool. Outside, the lane loses its color as light fades. The roofs become darker. The path becomes less distinct. A dog circles and lies down. Hens are quiet now. The village folds inward by degrees, rather than all at once. When the stew is ready, bowls are filled. Steam rises in thin, pale threads. Bread, if any remains, is eaten with it. The meal settles into a quiet rhythm of spoon, breath, and warmth. There may be a little talk, but not much. Much of the day has already been spoken through labor. No one needs to explain the morning chores, the field, the spinning, or the wood shavings on the ground. Everyone has lived some part of the same day. After supper come the last small tasks. A bowl is scraped. The pot is moved back from the heat. Embers are settled for the night. A blanket is shaken out. A shoe is set by the wall. A bench becomes a sleeping place again. or a sleeping place simply receives the body that has worked enough for one day. Children grow drowsy first. Adults move more slowly now, as if the whole room has grown heavier with evening. Outside, the last light leaves the lane. The air cools again and carries the smell of damp earth up from the ground. Sound thins. Smoke thins. A shutter closes somewhere. Then another. The village does not end the day with ceremony. It simply grows quieter and quieter until quiet is all that remains. Back at the hearth, the fire no longer leaps. It glows under ash, red and low, much as it did before dawn. The day has gone full circle. Morning began with embers, and night returns to them. The room darkens. Blankets settle. The last small movements fade away. And the village, having finished its ordinary work, settles back into the quiet of night. Now everything is still. The lane is empty. The tools are laid down. The animals are settled. The bowls are quiet. The spindle is no longer turning. Only the hearth keeps a small red memory of the day. You can remain here for a little while, under the thatch, beside the low fire, with the faint smell of smoke and wool and earth around you. Nothing more is required. The work is done. Morning can wait. The village sleeps now, and you may sleep with it, slowly and easily. Good night.